Hey guys! Today's video is gonna be a long one, so I'll dive straight into it. If you want to skip to certain sections, check the description below for timestamps. In this video I'll be comparing climbers in the 5C Plus top rope. The climbers in order are Ruben, Dim, Lara, Anne and me. Enjoy! So now that you've watched us climb, I'll be doing the comparisons. I'll be starting off with Ruben versus me, so that'll be tall versus short. Ruben with Dim, which is tall versus tall. Ruben with Lara, which is tall versus tall once again. And last up is Anne versus me, which is short versus short. Here we go. On the left you can see Ruben, on the right you can see me. Immediately from the start we can see a big difference between the tall and short climber. If we look at Ruben, we can see he stands on one of the starting footholds and can just reach for the next hold. And if we look over to my side, we can see I have to stand on the texture on the wall. And then I skip the first foothold and place my foot high up and then move towards the next hold. If we take reach into account, both ways are the most efficient ways to climb this part. Even though there's a big difference in reach between the two of us, you can see here, for example, that we'll often be in similar body positions. And right here we see another big difference between a tall climber and a short climber. If we look at Ruben, we can see he can just stand on one of the starting holds and reach for the stub. And if we look over to my side, you can see I have to move my right foot up, place it on the texture on the wall, and then I have to move my left foot up and then I can reach for the stub. The way I climb this part is actually not the most efficient way for shorter climbers. The best way to do it is to put the right foot where my left foot is now and then turn the right hip towards the wall, and then you can stand on your right foot and then you can reach for the stub. Before we make the next big move, you can see we're starting off in a similar body position again. The biggest difference here is that Ruben fully commits immediately and I put my left foot up before I actually make the move towards the next hold. I put the video on my side on pause because Ruben is too busy showing off. On a side note, if you can find a rest like this in a route, it's always a good idea to make use of it. Right here you can see another big difference. Before I can move up, I actually have to move my right foot up on a texture in the wall, and then I can move my left foot up, and then I can attempt to move towards the next hold. And if we look at Ruben, he can reach the next hold from the position he was in. But even though he does this, this is not the most efficient way for him to do it. That's because he's so stretched out that he can only use his arms to move upwards on the wall. A more efficient way for him to make this move would be to do it similarly to mine. If he places his right foot on the texture on the wall, he can use his right leg as well to move up instead of just using his arms. Here's another difference. Instead of just doing it statically like Ruben, I have to do it dynamically. Because the next hold is so far, I have to do a little hop. For the next few moves, our body positions are quite similar. The only exception is that I put my left foot up higher to create momentum to move towards the next hold. The next few moves are more compressed, making it easier for shorter climbers. As you can see here, Ruben is flagging his right leg instead of putting it on the hold, because this compression move would put him off balance as a taller climber. So after he flags, he grabs the next hold and then puts his foot on the next foothold. Here we both have our right foot on the same hold. The difference here is obvious, it's our body position and our legs pointing the opposite ways. Because I'm shorter, my legs don't get in the way for the next move, allowing me to do this move more straightforward. Again, here I can just put my right foot on the hold and just stand up straight. If Ruben were to do this as a taller climber, either his limbs would get in the way or he would stand up too high, losing grip on the hold that he's holding right now. Now for this last part I can't really compare the two, because according to Ruben I wasn't allowed to use the left wall. The way I would have done the end had I known I couldn't use the left wall was by putting my right foot next to my left foot right here and then put my left foot one hold higher.
Hey, je mag de linkermuur niet gebruiken, David. Nee, mag niet. Cheat mode activated.
I'll just go back to the last part where Ruben was climbing. Right here you can see he puts his right leg all the way towards the volume on the right. I think this is not very efficient of him to do. After controlling the hold that he's holding now with both hands, he should have put his right foot right here. And then he could have stand straight up by putting pressure on his right leg and then put his left foot right here. And after that he needs to put pressure on his left leg and flag a bit with his right leg, and then just stand up straight and reach for the finish hold. He should be able to do this because the hold that he's holding with his right hand is an undercling. That's it for tall versus short climber, and now I'll move on to tall versus tall and short versus short. Next up is Dim versus Ruben. For this part I'll be comparing Dim, who will be climbing on the right, with Ruben, who will be climbing on the left. Immediately from the start we can see that there is a difference between Ruben and Dim. They tried to go for the same hold, but even though Dim has a slight reach advantage, he seems to have a harder time reaching the hold compared to Ruben. The reason for this is because Dim is holding a hold that's intended for your left hand. And because of this he has to pinch really hard with his right hand. And it also puts his right arm in an awkward position where it's slightly behind his back, making it really hard to pull. Right here you can see they both put up the right foot the same way. But after that they climb this part completely different. If we look at Ruben, we can see the more efficient way to climb this part of the route. Before he moves to the next hold, he sets himself up by turning his right knee to the left, and while he's moving towards the next hold, he flags with his left leg to keep himself in balance. Now if we look over to Dim, after putting his right foot up, he moves straight up and tries to grab a hold that's intended for your foot. This is obviously very inefficient, and the way to improve this is by doing some route reading before you start climbing the route. Now this next part is quite interesting as well. While Ruben just stands on one of the starting holds and reaches for the stub, Dim does it another way. He does it the way I see most short climbers climb it. He puts up his right foot on a hold where his left knee is and then reaches for the stub. I'm actually not sure what the most efficient way is for tall climbers here, but this seems to work for him, so it's fine. Right here they're in a similar body position again before they move towards the next hold. The difference here is that Ruben uses a dynamic style and Dim uses a static style. Ruben keeps his left foot low and then pushes hard and uses momentum to move towards the next hold. And Dim moves his left foot up before he moves and then just reaches for the next hold statically. There is no right or wrong here, it's just a matter of preference. Right here, Ruben and Dim are climbing in a similar way again to move towards the next hold. Both of them have their right foot on the volume and reach for the next hold. After they reach the next hold, they pull themselves up. The only small difference here is that Dim has his right foot slightly lower on the volume than Ruben. And as I said before with the previous comparison, climbing like this is really inefficient because you're not using your legs and you are just using your arms. Right here, both climbers climb in a similar way again, and there's only a small difference. Ruben puts his foot down first and then grabs the hold, and Dim grabs the hold first and then puts his foot down. Since they both move dynamically towards the next hold, I think grabbing the hold before putting your foot down might be slightly more efficient. So for this next part, both Ruben and Dim are climbing similarly again. But there are a couple of differences that make a big impact on their eventual climbing performance. The first one you might have noticed is something I call determination of movement. What I mean with this is that each movement that you make has a purpose, and that you commit fully to each movement that you have to make to reach your next goal. If we look at Ruben, we can see he doesn't adjust his hands or feet a lot. And before he makes a big move, he already knows what to do and fully commits to that movement to reach the next hold. This brings me to the next difference: experience. Ruben has climbed this route a lot more than Dim. Because of this, he already knows what to do and knows what to expect. And because he knows what to do and what to expect, he has a better determination of movement, which results in faster climbing and less energy expenditure. Here we see Dim resting up after he has fallen out of the route, and after resting he tries the route again, but after a bit he falls down again and gives up. So what can Dim do next time to successfully ascend the route? I think for him it starts with route reading. For this attempt we could see he spent a lot of energy on trying to figure out the movements. He also adjusted his hands and feet a lot. So by route reading he'll know better what to do next time and can save up a lot of energy. I think his techniques are more than adequate enough to ascend the route, so it basically comes down to climbing more efficiently. Next up is Lara. I'll compare her to Ruben and let's see how she does. So on the left we once again have Ruben climbing, and on the right will be Lara. So right here we have the first difference between Ruben and Lara. As you can see, Ruben turns his right knee to the left, and because of this his right hip is closer to the wall, which means his center of gravity is closer to the wall as well. As a result, he doesn't have to pull as hard on the hold to stay on the wall. Now if we look over to Lara, we can see she doesn't really move her leg after placing her foot on the foothold, and as a result, when she stands up, her backside is sticking away further from the wall, which means the center of gravity is also further away from the wall. And because of this, she has to pull harder on the hold to be able to stand up and reach the next hold. And right here we can see another difference. If we look over to Ruben, we can see he's easily able to reach the hold. But if we look over to Lara, we can see she's barely able to reach the hold. And because of this, she gets into trouble. To reach the hold properly, she has to get her right foot up one hold higher. To be able to do this, she has to do a foot swap. She realizes this and tries to do a foot swap, but in the end it costs her too much energy and she falls down. The reason Lara got into trouble here is because she relied too much on her length. And this started with the way she started the route. If she had started the route the way shorter people climb this route, she would not have to do a foot swap where she fell out, which means she would have saved a lot of energy. So here's Lara's second attempt. As you can see, she does the foot swap immediately, but by her bent left arm you can see she's pulling really hard on the holds in order to stay stable enough to do the foot swap. So now we can see that Lara got to the next hold, and then she's on the same holds as Ruben. But she realizes she can't reach the stub from where she's standing. So this time she does what I should have done in my clip. And this is really good of her. She indeed, as I said before, puts her right foot up, turns her right hip to the wall and then tries to reach for the stub. Even though her idea was solid, she still didn't reach the stub and fell down. There are a couple of reasons why Lara fell down. The first and foremost reason is that she's climbing at her max level. So even if she did everything correctly and efficiently, it would still be a hard climb for her. The second reason is the commitment and confidence in her movement. If we look at Lara climbing, we can often see her stopping her movement halfway through, which not only means losing momentum, it also means you require more energy to stay stable again, and then you require additional energy to get going again. And now I'll be comparing short climbers. On the left you can see me, on the right you can see Anne. Immediately from the start we can see a difference between me and Anne. If you look at my side, you can see I put up my right foot first, I place it in a texture on the wall, then I stand up, and after that I put my left foot up. If we look over to Anne, we can see he puts his left foot up high, then jumps up and shifts his body weight towards his left foot and reaches for the next hold. So this is a classic case of static versus dynamic climbing. Doing this starting move dynamically as a shorter climber is not necessarily inefficient, but it's certainly risky. If you look at Anne's hand, you can see he's barely able to reach the hold with the tip of his fingers. Doing this starting move statically is a better option for shorter climbers, because then you can use the starting hold as an undercling and put your left foot up without straining yourself and then reach for the next hold. And this is the point where, as I said before, climb inefficient. If we look over to Anne, we can see he's actually doing this the efficient way for shorter climbers. He puts his right foot up and then turns his right hip to the wall and reaches for the stub, while flagging with his left foot. So right here we climb similarly again, up until this point. So if we look over to Anne, we can see he has the correct idea. He wants to put his foot higher so he can reach for the hold. He puts his foot up higher on the volume, but in doing so, he's also moving further away from the wall. So the actual distance towards the hold increases. If we look over to my side, you can see I put my right foot on a texture in the wall, between the wall and the volume, and then I put my left foot up. After that, I'm able to reach for the next hold statically. Right here we can see that Anne manages to put his left foot up on the stub, but his right foot is still on the volume. Because of this, he's standing in a split and can't generate enough momentum to jump for the next hole. The better option here for shorter climbers would have been to put the right foot up on the texture and then put your left foot up and then just reach for the next hole. This part is once again static versus dynamic. If we look over to Anne, we can see he's trying to put his left foot up on the texture in the wall and reach for the next hold statically. I have to emphasize the trying here, because if we look over to his left foot, we can see it's on one of the white holds. And this is what we call cheating. So Anne, tell us what you think of this route. After resting, Anne is trying to do it the static way again. His idea to reach next hold is sound. He tries to put his left foot up once again in the texture on the wall and then uses one of the footholds as intermediate hold to move up towards the next good hold. He manages to reach the next hold, but he can't seem to stay on it and falls down again. And then he has had enough of it and calls it a day. Hello! I know this video was a bit long, but if you prefer shorter videos, I can split similar future videos up in multiple parts. Or if you like the format as is, I can leave it as is. Let me know in the comments down below what you prefer. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. I'll see you guys later. Peace.